With the traditional way of teaching, the students learn how to chant only when he understands that what you are teaching him does not make sense. You are making it more difficult for him to learn Byzantine music. And if you say that we have 15 students, we teach them with this curriculum, and then we have only 2 who graduate, it means that the problem is in the curriculum, not in the 48 persons, right? It's a challenge between creativity and not going outside the rules. We have demonstrated that you can be creative without going out of the rules. We have demonstrated that after 2,000 years, we were able to get youth to church for Byzantine music, for traditional Byzantine music. This is, if you want, we can summarize what chant used to be in Antioch, especially before Mutabor. This is the Antiochian style.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ethos and Yphos, a podcast by Sons of Antioch Media. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Joseph Yazbeck. Joseph is the founder of the SEM choir in Mount Lebanon and composer of more than 20,000 pages of Byzantine music. Mr. Yazbeck, thank you so much for joining us today. It's our pleasure.
It's mine. The pleasure is your mind.
So, the first thing before we get into the personal journey and then make our way through all of the substantive questions, I saw an interview with you recently on the Orthodox podcast. For those who have not heard of the Orthodox podcast, it's a podcast that's based in Lebanon, and they interview a lot of people in Lebanon in the Orthodox Church, and they provide English subtitles as well. So it's a great resource for us in the United States to sort of learn a little bit about what's going on over there. And one of the questions, not going to make you answer, just restate exactly what you said there, but for our audience, for their purposes to sort of understand your mindset, right? They asked a great question, and I just want to ask you to elaborate a little bit about your comments where you said that you like to essentially work with and to fill your choirs. And when you're looking for people to work with, you like to look for the busiest people, right? The people who have a full schedule, people who know how to manage their time. And it's something that hit me as being like so obvious, but I never really thought about it that way. It's never really thought of that way. So please, if you could elaborate a little bit on that before we start, because that was something that really kind of opened my mind.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for this podcast. It's really, it means a lot to me to address, especially our parish and the States. So basically, our main idea, or my main idea when I started SEM especially, is that our church really deserves to give it the best of our time. To give it basically, if you want quality time, to give it professional time. For example, when I do something in my work, I do it professionally. When I do it at church, actually, I should do it more professionally. It's not just doing it, we are here, okay, it's family, definitely, all this stuff, but again, it should be, when I talk about reaching out to people, for example, I would think about marketing concepts, etc., and using them and the mindset, if you want, and in the rules of the church. But definitely, we should use all the science, we should use all the knowledge or the expertise, the professional expertise we have, to put it at the service of church. So this is, again, when you go to people, you want to pick people who will to support you in your team. Definitely, you should search mainly to professional people. Professional people, usually, they have busy schedules, unfortunately. And so this is how it goes. This is why I always search for people who have really busy schedule. And since I have definitely the busiest schedule, it's always easy for me to convince them to put some of their time in church, because they cannot tell me that they are busy. So it's not valid with me, because definitely I'm busiest than them. So this is why I was able really to join really professional people, and this is why we were able to do all what we did with Sam, and definitely with God's helping hand. And that's it. That's the concept, if you want.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that, at least on my own behalf. I find most certainly when my schedule is the most open, I procrastinate and I put work off and I get lazy. In the summertime, I definitely get less done than throughout the year. When I'm the most busy and I'm working 50, 60 hours a week, that's when I find that I'm working on compositions and helping our choir, the Sons of Antioch, the most. I'm being the most productive member of the choir that I can be when I am most busy. And it's because I find time, whatever time I can in the 24-hour day to accomplish these things. So thank you for that. I really think that that concept deserved kind of the first thing, because I really loved when you were discussing that. So now to kind of move on to our more substantive stuff, right? A little bit of a personal journey, right? Your personal journey. Can you give us like a detailed journey or a detailed walkthrough through your chant journey, your teachers, your inspirations, the different experiences that you had that formed you as a chanter and then as a choir master?
Sure. Actually, I was really lucky from a Byzantine music perspective, if you want, because my father is a chanter as well. And he was more obsessed with teaching me Nipa Bougadi than teaching me to say Papa Mama. So, so, when he used to play with me when I was little child and barely talking, he was doing ni pa vu gavu, this is how we used to play. So it's all in my mind since I was a little child. And then the second, if you want, milestone is that I was 10 years old and we were at the beach basically. And I had my cousins coming in, and they were learning Byzantine music. And my father told them, make just chant some few chants to see what are you learning. And actually they sung, I still remember, the doxology Zinjaran of Mitr el-Mor and the polychronion of Mitr el-Mor to the Patriarch. So I really loved it. I was 10 years old. So I went back and asked my father to give me the books and the cassette. It was the cassette of the opening of the Balamand monastery, theology seminar. So I did it, and he wrote for me the doxology, the Greek terms in Latin alphabet, and this is where it really, you can say that I started there, really. I mean, at 10 years old. Okay, so it was basically just hearing children who are approximately of my age. Okay, and this is what and at the same time in my family, everybody chants. My father, uh, uh, my godfather as well. He is a teacher of Byzantine music, Sam'an Shimmes, and my uncle is a priest, etc. So this is as well part of the family legacy. And then I started around, I think I was 12 or 13 years old. There was the war, and everything was blocked. We were not able to get out of our region from Romana. And Harin Aime was in Romana. Hari, you know Hari, he's the first chanter in Beirut with Sayyidina Elias. So basically, he gave us some courses, just preliminary courses. That's the scale and the first maybe 10 exercises. But it was, for me, it's a good start. Then we had Father George Coury in the parish. He didn't know a lot, reading that music, but he inflamed us with his enthusiasm to chanting, and it was really, really important for us. And then there was Abuna Melhem Porani after a while. He came to the Archdiocese, to the Lamtraniye, okay, and there he was giving lessons, Byzantine music lessons. I continued with him, let's say, to like the first 20 or 30 exercises. And then it was like everyone, everywhere, on my own. Because here, if you want, we can talk about the curriculum of teaching Byzantine music and what we did at SEM with our curriculum and the difference it made. So basically, then I continued by myself. Then there was what do you call it, a workshop in Belamant with Stathis, Grigorius Stathis. Then I was at the university, so I was like 18 or 19 years old. And then it opened a lot of doors for me because it was the first time that I hear about theory, Byzantine music theory, with such details. And that was another start for me in the theory of Byzantine music. Now, from the in terms of composition, I started composing. I was 15 years old. My first compositions. I don't know if you know what, for example, the doxology of Simonos Petras that I did in Arabic. I was 15 years old, for example. A lot of things that we still, 1992, I think, like something like that. So this is where I started. Definitely, there was a dilemma, if you want, because what people were used to in this region is basically مثل المر, okay? And then what I was interested in was listening to, mainly at that time it was Basilikos, Theodoros Basilikos. And then definitely with time, we became more mature, we went more into Stanitsas, and to more Constantinopolitan style. But basically this is what we had, as you know, that we didn't have internet, anything at the time. So that's it. This is, if you want, in summary. There are a lot of details, definitely, but
Of course. Yeah, I
at
love
the name, no.
the pipeline, you know, between from here to here to here to Vasilikos to Stanitsas. This is usually how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
One of our choir members, Nicholas Baba, who I'm sure you know, he's perpetually stuck in the Vasilikos phase.
Yes.
So to move on, I guess, past there, and also another interesting thing, we also interviewed Abuna Romanos Jabran, and I'm glad that you brought up Henri Naime, because he's somebody who is not really, I guess, might be recognizable to the
Yeah.
modern Byzantine chant community, definitely not outside of the Middle East. And so for people to become more familiar with him, you know, as the teacher of all of these great teachers that we now have and are more familiar with, I think is important, you know, as a
Of course.
for record keeping of our history and everything, which we'll get more into that topic later. But as far as the School of Ecclesiastical Music in Lebanon, the choir that you have founded, right? How did you, from there, from where you kind of ended that last part, how did you start to build and maintain that choir? And what is your approach to teaching? You mentioned sort of the Constantinopolitan style.
Yeah.
And what role does Sam have in the sort of broader landscape of Byzantine chant in Lebanon?
Okay, if you want to talk about the style of the church of the choir,
Yeah. Well, first, how did you build it, and then like the influence of the style, like how?
listen, when I started, basically we started with anthem choir. We wanted to build an anthem choir, not a Byzantine music choir. And it was in the MGO, you know, the movement of youth, Orthodox youth.
Yes. Yes. The for those who don't know, it's the Orthodox Youth Movement of Lebanon.
Yes. So it was the idea was to have a choir for anthems, especially when you have events for the youth, in order to have something, some music, something nice to have a good time, if you want, within the church spirit. So I gathered some people who played music, and we prepared the music of the chants. Then we needed people to sing, and there was no one. We asked even at NGO, there was nobody, totally. And we can say that at that time in 1992, in Mount Lebanon, there was maybe like less than 10 people who really were able to sing Byzantine music in Mount Lebanon. There were good chanters, but again, there was a choir. They had started a choir. They did one small CD, then I joined them. Then we did few chants. But again, that was it. For the teaching, we were trying to teach in different parishes, but it was not working. It's very difficult to teach in separate parishes. You need something that is central to be able to develop curriculums in order to have something really decent. Anyway, this is another story. But to continue with this, so basically, this is where started the idea to have a Byzantine music school, okay, to teach people how to chant. I went back then to the Andraniye, and they told me we have tried to do it more than 10 times, and it does not work. In Mount Lebanon, no one is interested in chanting. Everyone is interested in theology because we have Sayyidina George, Khidr, but in chanting, no. Try it elsewhere. So just forget about it. So basically, I started it with with as a personal. And it was my project. Okay, if you want. And here NGO supported us. They gave us back then $300 for to do the photocopy of the curriculum, because the first thing that I did was that I did a new curriculum, and from the day one I did this new curriculum, because we'll talk. It's very important to talk about the curriculum in the music, because this is something very important, and I think this is where the real problem is. To have more people to chant, to get more people chant. So anyway, we did the curriculum, and then I went to the parishes, and I searched in the choirs of every parish and chose people. I chose exactly 40 persons, and I gathered them, and then we started with 40 people, the school. And then only after 1 year that we started the choir. So definitely when we started, there were people who were supporting, who were helping in the teaching. And then it continued. We had students, then the students became teachers, the normal cycle. So this is how it started. Now, if we want to talk about the curriculum before we talk about the choir, the problem was that the traditional curriculum, but you start with 50 persons, and then you get like 2 or 3 persons who continue, right? This is normal. Because if you go back to the roots of the exercises that are used in the traditional way, that start always with mi, pa, vu, then use two notes, then three notes, right? This is how it goes. Actually, the root of these exercises are in the شو اسمه in the book of Medides, Chrysanthus. Okay, Chrysanthus in 1814, when he did the new method of notation, the new notation, in his book, in the same book, he wrote exercises as examples on how to read. So the exercises that are used these days in traditional way to teach Byzantine music, actually they do not teach, they explain. You see, so if you can read, for example, let's do it another way. If I want to teach you how to go two notes at the same time, okay? In the traditional way, they do ni, vu, pa, ga, vu, di, right? This is the exercise, the known exercise. First of all, this is illogical, because you know that ni, vu is different than pa, ga as an interval, right? So first of all, you are teaching the student something that is wrong. Secondly, when you know music, you know that you never think about going intervals of 2 or 3 or 4. It's never like this. If you are in mode 8, for example, okay, plagius to tetartos, you know that you have ni and di that you memorize because they are the essential notes. Ni, vu, di, ni. Okay? And then when you go from ni to ke, you think that you are going one level, one interval. It's not 5 intervals. There's nothing in music called 5 intervals in the way you are thinking. You know V, okay? It's fixed in your head. So you think about going one up, one above the. That's it. Okay? So definitely ni, vu, pa, ga, vu, di does not teach anything. Okay? And worse, it's illogical because it's making the student think that these are same intervals, though they are not the same intervals. So what I say, with the traditional way of teaching, the student learn how to chant only when he understands that what you are teaching him does not make sense. Okay? Basically, you are making it more difficult for him to learn Byzantine music. Okay? So this is why, and if you say that we have 15 students, we teach them with this curriculum, and then we have only 2 who graduate, for example, okay, it means that the problem is in the curriculum, not in the 48 persons, right? Logically. So this is why I did the new curriculum that starts basically with Nivudi. Nivudi, the method is not my method. This is a method that has proven to be academic, if you want, in the West. Do, mi, sol. Okay? So I used the same system, okay, which definitely uses Western intervals to start with, because it's easier to start with the student. So we started with Nivudi, and then, so for example, if you have a student who cannot read the full scale to begin with the traditional way, he cannot start music, right? Because it starts with the scale. In this new method, he can start. If he can just repeat one note, it means that he can learn Byzantine music. No need to be able to say the whole scale. He will reach it after a while, at the end of the first level. So the method mainly, it teaches you how to think. You see? This is what I do with the new curriculum, is to teach students how to think when they are chanting. For example, if you want to go from ni to zo in the eighth mode, if you think that you are going 6 up, okay, you will never reach it in your life. 6, how are you going? It's impossible to do it. When you think that it is a half interval below ni that is essential and that you know it, then it would be very easy to say it. Okay? So basically, we start ni vudi, then we add the upper ni, then we do pa, then we do ke, then we do ra, then we do zo. And the student understand that each note has its own, if you want, inspiration, its own characteristics. Each note is unique. Okay. So then when he starts to sing that, oh, I'm going 7, 8, 2, 3, it's very easy for him. Okay. So this one. Then in the second level, when we teach the modes, teaching the modes again in the traditional way, when we finish with the first exercises, you don't have more exercises. You have few exercises on gorgon, etc. But again, they are not teaching you. They are just explaining the gorgon. So either the students memorizes them, then he is not getting any benefit out of them, or he will not able to sing them unless he is so he has the talent. He's so talented. So basically, if he's if you want, in the traditional method, any student who is able to read music, it's because he is talented, not because he followed the exercises. That's it, for sure. So what I did again, in the second level, rather than just taking the Anastasia Mataru and just reading and reading and reading and reading, which is important, but not at this stage, I started by explaining that every mode, every style in a mode, for example, Irmoloic, Protos, it has maximum 6 to 8 phrases. That's it. All the others are variations in these phrases. So what we do is that we teach them these 6 phrases or 7 phrases, and then what they learn basically is how to read the variations in these few phrases. At the end, they will be able to read the whole Anastasia Matano very easily. You see? So it's basically because, let me tell you, one of the not just important, the fantastic things about music, Byzantine music, is that if you get someone who can read good Byzantine music, usually he can sing anything, almost everything, à première vue, at first sight, right? But, and then you look at this music, and you find it so complicated. If you get someone, a Western person, he looks at it, oh, it's very complicated. How are you able to read it at first sight? Then the Western guy give him something that is not as complicated in Western music. And the Byzantine guy cannot read it. Right? Right or not? What are the secrets? Why? Because in Byzantine music, first of all, they wanted something to express the majesty of the presence of God in the liturgy, right? Especially that they were in the Byzantine Empire, etc. Okay, so they were living this idea of the majesty. So the majesty means something complicated, definitely. But from the other end, you need something to be able to, something that people can read from the first sight, because you have vigils of 15 hours. It's impossible to prepare 15 hours beforehand. It's impossible, right? So how to do it? What they did is that they used not many phrases, few phrases in each mode, but each phrase is complicated. So once you are able, it's very difficult to read these few phrases, but when you know to read these little phrases, these few phrases, you can read anything in the Byzantine music. That's the concept. Okay? It's difficult at the beginning, then it becomes very easy. It's like keys. Okay? When you know how to use these keys, you can open any door. So the concept of the second level is based on this idea of Byzantine music. If you'd give the student, the Anastasia Matarion, to read it, he will not recognize that. He will not understand that. He will reach it with experience. But meanwhile, he's repeating many exercises, many phrases. He's not understanding what's happening. In this way, he's understanding. So the new curriculum is based on the logic. It's based on how you think. Okay? I tell students, if you know how to think, you can interpret anything. You should understand, okay, and know how to think about it when reading music. I will give you an example. We have students who came to our school, to SEM. They were not able to read the scale, to interpret the scale, okay? For the traditional way, they were doomed not to start Byzantine music. With our curriculum, they became teachers of Byzantine music. As simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So this is about our curriculum.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go to the choir, when we started the choir, there's a problem, if you want, mainly in Greece in general, in that there are a lot of schools, and each school considers that it is the right school and the others are wrong. Okay? Especially for us in Antioch, we live in a liberal church. We have dogma that we cannot, we have to stick with this dogma. Otherwise, we can think of whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. Even Byzantine music, we don't call it a sacred music. It's not coming from above, okay? People can be in Africa just applauding and I don't know what they are doing, okay? And dancing, and they can be more spiritual than we are, okay? And maybe they are, but this is their culture. So first of all, we have to understand that when we are chanting, we are just praising the Lord, okay? If someone else maybe does not know music, maybe he's from another school. In Lebanon, we have even, for example, the school of Dimitri Kutiya, that at a certain level, they say that we want, like the Russians reach their own music, we want to have our own music as well, that is the Arab music, okay? For these people, let me give you an example of these people. Once the Balamand choir, okay, went to Mina in Tripoli, okay? Mina, Dimitri Kutiya was the chanter of Mina, okay? But at that day, he was not available. He was traveling or something. It was the Paraclesis. And they read the Paraclesis very decently from Metrelmore books, etc. Okay? For me and you, it would have been lovely. For the people, they were not able to pray because they are used to this Arab style, if you want, with Dimitri Kutiya. So if I would go to Mina today to chant, I would definitely not say a Constantinopolitan style, because the aim is to make these people pray, right? The aim is not to do what I think is right. So when we started, back to Sam, when we started Sam, if you look to our old recordings, we're trying to I was trying to introduce the chanters to all styles. I wanted to have in every parish in Mount Lebanon a different style, not one style everywhere. I wanted to go, for example, for 10 concerts on Pascha, for example, at 10 parishes, and enjoy every concert, every parish with its own style. Right? Because it's a living tradition. It's not a tradition that you would put in the refrigerator and just close on it. It's not a museum. Listen, there is different. What's the difference between a museum and a tradition? Okay, they both talk about something that is old, and that is part of our heritage. But the difference is that when you go to a museum, you just look back to the history. With tradition, you live the tradition. The tradition is alive. It's something that you live with, that you experience, okay, and it develops with you. Definitely, Byzantine music, Sanitsas, we consider the Sanitsas is traditional because it comes from Constantinople. Whereas Sanitsas change a lot in the music. The music is changing, it's developing. However, it's developing within the rules of Byzantine music. As long as you are in the rules, you can do whatever you want. Did you know that when Mittel started using his chants, he was not accepted at all? He was a huge difference to what was known in Antioch. Mittel is not the Antiochian tradition. Today he became a tradition because now he is already old. Otherwise, at his time, he was not at all the Antiochian tradition. You see? So music evolves, and we have to understand it. As long as we remain within the rules of Byzantine music, which means we are not inventing new phrases. You cannot, if you want to sing Byzantine music, you have to stick to the phrases that are in the manuscripts. When you do variations in them, the variation should be according to what is known. Okay? If you want to do chironomia, it should be ornamentation, it should be within the chironomia that are known. If you want to do Ison, Jazbiye, whatever, okay? All this, you can do whatever you want. You can do a lot of things with it. And I think that SEM is the school that has demonstrated the most how much you can be creative and you can invent things, okay, within the Byzantine music without going out from the tradition and from these schools. You have another problem. If now I would invent any melody that is not Byzantine, okay? I'll give you an example. My father, my own father, he composed a psalm, okay? It says, رنموا للرب يا جميع الأرض اعبدوا الرب بفرح عظيم. Okay? It went viral. Everybody wants to hear it. Everybody wants you to chant it. Okay? But this is not Byzantine music. Anything non-Byzantine would go viral because it's easy. This is a huge problem. And this is the challenge, the real challenge of tradition. This is the real challenge of tradition. In this part of the world, we have the Maronites. You know the Maronites, okay? The Maronites were people who were very conservatives in their music. Very conservatives. They were in Rome, you know. They are part of the Catholic Church. They were in Rome, studying there at the flourishing times of music in okay, in Rome and Italy, etc. And with all that, they didn't include any one additional phrase, a music phrase, to their liturgy. However, around 100 years ago, they started to like some small melodies, okay? This is origin, like Agni Partene, let's say, okay? The problem is that when you break the rule, there's no more rule. It started with few melodies, non-Syriac melodies, and then the rule was not applicable anymore. Now, you can some places you can see them dancing at the church.
Yeah, there's a slow degradation over time, it seems.
You cannot know anything. And already we have افرح يا بيت عنيا, Bet Anya, okay, which is not Byzantine.
Rejoice, O
We have elements, but we cannot open the door. We cannot open the door. These days we have a lot of things that are being introduced to our liturgy that are not Byzantine. My own father's composition with this song, I would never interpret it at church. To give you an example. It's not disrespect to my father, of course. I like the melody. I like it. It's a very nice melody. However, it's not appropriate. If I would have been in an event with youth, etc., I would definitely say it and I'll be very happy to sing it with them. But not in the liturgy. It's a balance. Actually, not a balance. It's a challenge. It's a challenge between creativity, okay, and not going outside the rules. In Byzantine music, we have demonstrated that you can be creative, okay, without going off the rules. We have demonstrated that in the Arches of Mount Lebanon, which was the less, if you want, appealing for Byzantine music, we were able to do all what we have done. We have demonstrated that after 2,000 years, we were able to get youth to church for Byzantine music, for traditional Byzantine music. Definitely, you should work on the choir to be harmonious, to be professional, etc. All these big choir, etc. Okay, all these elements would attract people. So you have a lot of people, a lot of elements that you can work on to attract people, rather than just going. It's not about simplicity. It's about using phrases that are not in the repertoire, Byzantine repertoire. That's it.
So, as far as you mentioned this, you brought this up a couple times, the idea of sort of the tradition in Antioch, right? The tradition in Antioch that a lot of times people have, at least today, sort of misconceptions about, right? If you ask a modern Antiochian person, what is the tradition of Antiochian Byzantine music, they would be inclined to say, well, it's
We don't touch.
Mitri el-Mer and nothing else. Right, it's Mitri el-Mer and nothing else. That's all that we know. And then later came Abu Ula Malik and Father Romanos and everything. But in our conversation over the summer when we met, you walked me through sort of your extensive research into the subject. And I think that if there's any one human being on earth who can identify and distinguish what is the Antiochian Yphos, if you will, or the sort of Antiochian distinction in Byzantine chant, it would be you. So if you can elaborate a little bit on sort of the history of the development of Byzantine chant in Antioch, the distinguish of the Antiochian sound, how that's changed over time, some misconceptions about Byzantine chant in Antioch, and yeah, just in general, your sort of research into the subject and the things that you found.
Okay. Let me tell you something. For people who are listening to us, they should understand that there is a normal cycle for every chanter. Okay? That is a cycle, normal cycle. He starts chanting, okay? First of all, he is not obsessed, but he he loves a lot, let's say, the Greek choirs, mainly the Greek choirs, okay, which is good because this is the main part, this is the core, if you want, of our tradition. But then the same person, it's not about maturity, but this is the cycle, the normal cycle. He would understand with time that there are elements of Antioch, okay, that are related to him, that are part of his history, and that are worth being respected, okay, and conserved, okay. The problem in Antioch, first of all, is that we went through a phase where we didn't have chanters, basically. And we have, let's say, we had in Antioch, we had Greek chanters for some time, because you know that for a long period we were using Greek, and even the archbishops, everyone were Greeks, okay? And then came a period, maybe 150 years ago, or 250 years, where we got an Arab, I will not say Arab, a Lebanese or Syrian, an Antiochian, I would call him an Antiochian. We got an Antiochian patriarch and bishops, and they decided to turn to Arabic, because Arabic is the language used by people and that people understand simply, okay? So at that period, we started using Arabic with Byzantine music. Arabic is very difficult and is very different than Greek as sounds, okay? It's harsh, if you want, it's harsh. It's a language coming from the desert at the end of the day, okay? So it took a lot of time to reach a good, an acceptable combination between the Arabic pronunciation, okay, and the Byzantine melody. The first time we reached this acceptable combination was with Mittelmor. Before that, we had a lot of ideas. This is what I've been researching. We have a lot of people who have very good, very nice ideas, original ideas in Byzantine music before him. However, he was the first one to have, first of all, a good combination, as we said, with the words, and then to have something within the rules, 100% within the rules, okay? Definitely, there is part of his work, doctologies, a ninth ode, some of the Kilmikon, etc., which are more, he was trying, I like people who try. And at the end of the day, first of all, the only person who does not commit errors is the person who does not work, right? So if you see someone who is committing errors, okay, at least okay, in general, it means that he is trying at least, okay? So we should not be afraid of errors. Secondly, I wouldn't say that this part of Mittermore was an error. Definitely not. It shed a lot, some light on a lot of things, on what we can do, okay? Maybe, for example, with voxologies, he took it a little bit far, but then they are there, they have their identity, and then the time will judge, okay? Anyway, so so the problem, first of all, was with the written tradition that reached this balance with Mittelmore. And from the other side, the problem was because they were just trying to put things in a possible combination with words, we missed a lot on the hieronomia, on the tradition, because we were just focusing, they were just focusing on making it just work. Okay, so you are just, it's like the pyramid of needs of Maslow, if you want. You start with just having the minimum to be able to eat. Okay, so we were just at this level. Now, after Mittelmohr, I think that we started a new era. Mittelmohr, for me, for example, he set the basis for me. Now I think that, first of all, for the combination between words and music, we can ask for more. Okay? For a better combination. And I think that we reached a better combination between Byzantine music and words. And from the other side, it's time, and it really happened, that people got used to chanting Arabic and Byzantine music, so now they can think of doing it better. This is why we have the Chironomia back, we have all this back. Some people think that the Chironomia are not from our tradition. We are getting it from the Greeks, which is not true at all. We did a study on Yazbeck, the son of Mittelmohr. Mittelmohr had mainly Fuad and Ilyas, his sons. Fuad was more into the written tradition. Okay, he wrote the books. And Ilyas was more in the oral tradition. He memorized everything from his father. So for a whole summer, we took the whole Anastasia battalion. We sat with him and we asked him to chant it. While he was chanting, every time he was doing Chironomia, we were writing it, and we were asking him to repeat it to make sure that it was not just, coincidence. So basically, he was repeating them exactly as they are, 100%, which means that this is tradition. Okay? If you take all these ornamentations, all of them, they're exactly the same that they do in Greece. The difference that in Greece they do it more often. We do it less. Okay? But the principle is there. So we can do the Chironomia. So the Chironomia are definitely part of our style as Antiochian. So this is first to say that it is the same tradition from one side. But from the other side, it has as well its own characteristics. If you go to Romania, they think beautiful Byzantine music. However, they have their own style. I'm not talking about the anthems they say sometimes in church. This is a different story. But I'm talking about the real Byzantine music. For example, they have sometimes in chants, for example, they are on Plagios Sotetarkos, but they end on pa, which is not traditional. Okay? Then they start over, etc. They have some ideas. Okay? They have things that are characteristics. So the core is the same. However, we have like dialects if you want. On the other side, we have as well the intervals. It's understandable that as you go to the east, okay, the intervals would become lower. For example, Vu would become lower. As you go to the west, the interval, the Vu would become closer to the western Mi. Okay? I understand that when Chrysanthos tried to measure it, okay, he did some measures. I understand that even Simon Karas went even into more details, the detail of it with commas in the okay. But definitely this changes because these days I'm talking you from Lebanon to the US, okay, in real time. Back then it was impossible. You know, when we had the councils, the ecumenical councils, it took maybe 50 years or 100 years for a region to know that there has been a council and that was decisions and we are not anymore in communion with other people, etc. So things were different. So imagine for the intervals, definitely the intervals were changing. So first of all, the intervals definitely, except especially for Laetos and for Varis, it's normal that in our country, the intervals, in our region, the intervals become more Eastern, if you want, more oriented. That's it. Then if you go to the written tradition. As I told you, when Mittelmore came, he was not considered at all as an Antiochian style. Definitely, Mittelmore is not Antiochian style. He is more Greek style. Of course, he had put his own. I'm not talking about the doxologies and all this stuff. I'm talking about his traditional repertoire. Okay, it is more Greek style. If you want to talk more about the Antiochian style, you would say more Andraus Ma'ir. The books that I found in Balamand, not in Balamand, with old Balamandian students of the school. It was a school there. We called before it became the institute, Ecclesiastical. I'll tell you a story, then I'll give you the conclusion. We have Anastasio Simera, okay, اليوم يوم القيامة, okay. In English, what would be that?
It is the day of resurrection.
Yes, this is the day of the resurrection. We used to chant it, okay. We had the Mittelmore one, and we had the version of Andraus Ma'ir, okay. And you always called it the version of Andraus Ma'ir until one day, when I started the research, I got from Eli Dawn, Engineer Dawn, who is the student of Eli Hamse, who is a direct student of Andraus Ma'ir. With him, I got the version of Andraus Ma'ir, and it was totally different than the version we know of Andraus Ma'ir. So the version that I had was in the handwriting of Abuna Romanus Subran. I asked him, from where did you get it? He told me, from Hari Naim. I asked Hari Naim, from where did you get it? He told me that when he was in Balamand, okay, they used to sing it, this melody, and they called it Andraus Ma'ir version. Okay? Basically, let me continue. When I found all the old manuscripts of Balamand, I found, for example, a whole anastasiomatarion called by Al-Musiqar Andraus Ma'ir, the musicologist Andraus Ma'ir. But I got as well from Eli Hamse the parts of the anastasiomatarion of Andraus Ma'ir, which is totally different. So I started a long research, and I searched for people who were at that time in Balamand to understand from where did they get this Andraus Ma'ir thing. Okay, this. Okay. And it appeared that they knew that there was the Antiochian style, what they are familiar with, okay, what they are familiar with, and there was Mittelmore. So everything by default that is not Mittelmore was Andraus Ma'ir. So Andraus Ma'ir is the default. There is a person, a real person, chanter, called Andraus Ma'ir. He has his own repertoire, which is not very big, okay? And there is the Andraus Ma'ir tradition, if you want, which is the Antiochian tradition. Now, the Antiochian tradition and Andraus Ma'ir have the same characteristics. The characteristics are the following. You have two types. The type of everyday, if you want, and the type of the Holy Week and the big feasts. The tradition of the simple daily prayers. The Antiochian style, you can say that is very simple, okay? It's not long, okay? And for example, it's fast. It's in Mittelmore, if you take any chant in Mittelmore, for example, in stationic mode, okay, you find that almost on every syllable you have 2 times, okay? And in Andraus Ma'ir, you find like 4 syllabic, and then the next syllable would go for 2. Then syllabic, then 2, for example. So it's shorter, much shorter than Mittelmore. Okay? Secondly, it's more expressive of the meaning. It expresses the meaning more, okay, with plagios to the fteru, etc. All this ornamentation, they use them a lot. Third, now this is not related really to Antiochian style, but it is related, if you want, to that they didn't have microphones and they had very good capabilities with Ras Ma'il, for example, that he used a lot of high notes. For example, he would go and protos, the Shiraric protos, he would go to K and then from K continues to Pa. So he would transpose it to K, which is not traditional in protos. So this is, if you want, the Antiochian. If we can summarize what is known as what chant used to be in Antioch, especially before Mutabar. This is the Antiochian style. Okay. Now what I did is that I was able to identify 7 schools in the Antiochian tradition. Okay, each of them has its own reference person, chanter, if you want, and the others are his students mainly, and it has its own style, going from extreme Greek, if you want, okay, or extreme Constantinopolitan, if you want, with Patriarch Ilyas al-Rabi', with a lot of people, okay, who were in Khalki, and they say that they studied with Pringles even, okay. So they when they think it's 100% like you are listening to Greek with ornamentation and everything. And then you have the other extreme, okay, is the Nitrikutia, which is almost totally Oriental. A lot of phrases that goes outside the repertoire, the Latin repertoire, etc. Between these two, there are many levels, okay? But this is the axis, if you want. This is the criteria. And then you have these 7 schools. Each school, I was able to identify chants for it, either written, either on recordings. The first recordings we had are from the year 1915 with Erchmandrit, with Bishop Shhade, Germanus Shhade, okay? Because he went to the US and there he was able to do the recordings. This is why we had our first recordings in Arabic from the US. By the way, Germanus Shhade was the most known composer of Zati music before Metalmur. He had a lot of things, okay? And then after him, we had Metalmur and Ras Ma'il, okay? And took his place. Basically, definitely Metalmur had the most perfect, if you want, combination, as we said, between the text and the music. But as well, his concept of Byzantine music was so mature. And he published the books. It means a lot to publish a book. Because at the end of the day, even though chanters did not accept Metalmur music, okay, but at the end of the day, rather than just having paper that you wrote with your hand and having a book, definitely it's better to have a book. So they just threw away all their papers and they used the books of Metalmur. So this was his main, if you want, this is why the main reason why he spread all over everywhere. That's
Beautiful. On the topic of books, you kind of walked me through your work in progress. You know, it seems like it's been a culminating, work of a lifetime. So touching on what you've kind of already spoken about the sort of the Antiochian sound and our distinction, right? How can you explain a little bit about your upcoming book series, the timeline, the themes, the musical contents, right? What's in there, and also, I the most unique part in my eyes when you were kind of showing me was historical the historical context and the addition of your research within the books, but it's not just in the beginning or in the end, right? It's kind of laid throughout the entirety of the book. Yeah, can you when you were showing it to me, it just seemed so unique. So can you explain your book,
Okay.
kind of as a whole, and then maybe some specific things about it too?
Okay. Basically, when I did all these research, as I told you, research, and I got all these recordings and manuscripts, the problem is that all of them, all of them are not readable today because they represent a phase of transition till they reach Mittel Mokr. Okay? The combination basically between the music and the text is not good enough. And then the Byzantine maturity was not enough as well. So they have a good idea, but then every now and then they go outside the repertoires. So what I did basically is that I conserved all these recordings, which will be made available to everyone who wants to do research. You will have them as reference, and I think that they will lay down the basis for a future of doctorate research, okay? And hopefully to Byzantine music doctorate degree in Antioch, okay? So this is one part, but at the same part, as I told you, tradition is something, it's a living tradition. So I wanted chanters to enjoy that, okay? And I wanted them not to stay in the manuscripts. I wanted them to become something that we use every day and that we are proud of it. This is why I took them and I allowed myself to change them. I kept the way of thinking of every chantus. I consider, if you want, the idea was, if that same chanter met Mitr al-Mur, accepted Mitr al-Mur as a combination between those, okay? And he continued and did a lifestyle, a lifetime of Byzantine research and listening to real Byzantine music, what this guy with these ideas would have become. That's the concept. So if you want, these books are a transition of these manuscripts over time, over maturity, okay? I'll call it another way. I'll call it, this is my point of view, okay, of what this would have become if these people would have lived like 200 or 300 years. Okay, this is what they would have reached. So I did it, okay, and definitely it is not against history because you can still go back to the original manuscript anytime, okay. And I did these books. Now, this is, let's say, maybe half of the books, and the other half of the books are my compositions. But a big part of them are from the Greek, almost all the Greek tradition chants. I have adapted them to Arabic, okay, and then I have my own compositions, of course. So all these now we are almost done with the first 5 books. They are the matins, the general chants of the matins, 5 books of 2,500 pages, the total. The total should be around 30,000 pages, I guess, which is crazy.
Yeah, very, very. Yeah. How long has it taken to do this?
I know, but basically what I'm doing now is that because most of it I have already composed it since 15 years. I was 15 and then till now, and I'm still composing. So I'm basically joining them in books, and then I'm completing the missing parts to have a complete book. That's what I'm doing. The Vespers is ready. The liturgy will take a lot of time. Then I have a lot of things that are ready after that. But basically That's it. We have finished from typing them, typing 4. Now they are typing in the 5th volume, and they're starting the correction of the first 4. But it takes a huge time. It almost as composing them, because I'm adding the temp, the rhythm, attractions. All the attractions are written. Everything is written in detail. The ESO and everything. So you can just take it and sing it at the choir for the first time. It will be ready for a concert or for a decent service if you want. So that's it. So correcting them, and even with the stabros, we have to take everything's full. So it's taking a lot of time.
Yeah, when we were going through some of the pieces in there, I remember it had the pencil and was constantly correcting little things here and there, and I know all too well how when you think something is completely finished and it's not, and then you go through 100 more iterations until it is finally done, and even still it's not done. Um, in any Greek book that you get, any Greek Byzantine music book, in the back, they all have
Always, yes.
they all have the corrections page, right? And in one of the books I got, it was a Hierovikarion I got from Thessaloniki a couple summers ago. I can't remember who was by it. It may have been Paikopoulos, but I'm not 100% sure. But it said something that it was in Greek, so of course I'm not able to translate it perfectly. But when I translated it, it was something that stuck with me, and I put it above my desk where I do all my work, and it said, in essence, this page exists because no matter how perfect, no matter how many times our eyes look over, the errors always appear after the publishing, you know? So it's just something to keep in mind. Even the best composers and compilers and everything, there will always be mistakes. Um, but we do whatever we can to make it as perfect as possible. But like you said, the only person who makes errors is the one who doesn't work. So
But
yeah.
exactly.
Um, how many books by the end will this whole series contain, and um, how would people be able to get it? I remember you said that you had funding to make it free, to make it available for people. Can you explain a little bit about this, sort of the practical aspects of the book?
Listen, basically, when you talk about this volume of pages, definitely you cannot put them at church. It will take a whole library. But so definitely, and at the end, it will be all electronic, using an iPad with the search engine to reach what you want, okay? But it's important to have them printed out for history. When you have a book, story is totally different. And when you are at home, when for example, for me, like you read a book, I read Byzantine music books from the page 1 to the end. This is a very good exercise. So it's nice to have the book and read it, all of it, to understand and to learn. For me, definitely, I always try to see phrases that are using what they are doing for the composition. But even for a chanter, it's important to read, like in any specialty or.
Mhm. Yeah. So uh, you also work with a diploma program with Athanasios Paivanas, who I have studied with as well. Athanasios Paivanas, who's a student of Stanitsas, and he works with the Athens Conservatory of Music, or the Athens. What is it? What's the correct name?
It's the Hellenic Conservatory of Arts and Music.
Yes, and it's in Athens. This diploma program is virtual, and you work, of course, in collaboration with Paivanas to help students from all over the world, from Lebanon, the United States, uh, essentially, but I guess they're from many countries, to obtain their diploma in Byzantine music. Can you elaborate a little bit more on this? We have a couple members of our choir, Patrick Haddad and Christian Faraj, who did it in 23 or 24. And then I was doing it last year. I did all the lessons with Paivanas, but I was unable to make the trip to Cyprus to actually take the exam.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still in waiting, still in waiting. But can you elaborate a little bit more on the program, and sort of you feel free to promote it as much as you'd like, because I think it's a wonderful, wonderful program and a great opportunity for chanters anywhere.
Listen, you know, in Byzantine music, if you learn how to read Byzantine music, it's not enough. In principle, it was not enough for you to be able or to be accepted to go to a choir or to a parish and sing and chant. You needed more than learning the written tradition, if you want, to be to have an experience, if you want, or to be to practice or not, to just stand. That's the word. To just stand with an elder chanter, to understand how he thinks, what he does, what are the ornamentations, the style, how does he interfere, if you want, or how does he do with the service? Okay, so for us, for Byzantine chanters, always, if you want, the mother of all, schools, if you want, is Constantinople. And the last chanter, okay, now we have Paikopoulos, but before him, the most important of the last century was Sanitsas. Paivanas was lucky to be able to stay with Sanitsas for 7 years and to have twice a day a private lesson. So he was having per week 2 private lessons in 2 days for 7 years. So I think he understands Sanitsas more than Sanitsas would have understood himself. So this is very important for us. Jan. It's not just a degree, okay? It's, if you want, it's part of the continuation of the tradition of the Constantinople tradition through Sanitsas, Paivanas to us. So that's the concept. And definitely, as a degree, it's important for students. It motivates them that after studying the 4 years, 5 years, and then they'll be able to have the diploma, just for the record, to say that we have finished and we have an official diploma from Lys in Byzantine music. Add to this that Paivanas himself, as a person, really is an amazing person. In our Antiochian conception of accepting the other schools, he never would say anything bad of any other school, or he would not underestimate anyone, really. And this is what we want our chanters. This is to accept the other person, even if he's different, with all his differences. Just accept him as a new color to this bouquet, which adds, variety.
Yeah, we hear Sayyid Nasaba talks about it a lot. The idea of Antioch being sort of the original, like, melting pot, if you will. I don't really, love that phrase, but Antioch is kind of the original melting pot, before America, right? And in America, we have such I guess a plurality or a variety of different schools because people come from all over the world. So you have the old uh, Lebanese Jiddos who come here and everything is oral tradition, right? Then you have some good, like, Lebanese, Syrian chanters who come here and, somewhere in, like, the middle, like you'd say, of the 7 schools, right, that you were discussing before. You have the Greek chanters from Constantinople who have studied in the Constantinopolitan style. You have Greek chanters who are more Athonite. You have and a lot of the teachers of Byzantine music in English today and composers are from the more Karas school, right? They study under Ioannis Arvanitis and Lycurgus Angelopoulos, right? So we have such a wide variety, a wide range of different Iphi. Is that the plural of Yphos? But the different sounds, that make up sort of, I guess, the American sound, right? If you can even say that. But it's nice because we don't have this in America. We don't have this sort of elitism, right? Where one school looks down on another. In some cases, of course, you will, but in order to be able to be a chanter in America, you need to be able to adapt to other chanters who come from different traditions. You need to be accepting of those things. You may have your own personal opinions, but if you're going to chant with them, you need to be able to adapt without harboring any animosity.
Just enjoy the beauty of their style. That's it.
Exactly. And so I'm very blessed personally that I was able to, study with, teachers from many different traditions, with John Boyer from the Karas school and Paivanas from Constantinople, and I've done lessons with Eleftherios, our assistant music director of the choir, who's very much from the Athonite tradition, right? So all of these things, they teach so much. Each one teaches something so unique, right? That kind of leads me into the last thing that I want to talk about before we wrap up. And that is sort of the chanting in America. What are your observances from the outside? What sort of progression have you seen in America, and progression too in relation to the Middle East and in your context of Byzantine chant?
Definitely, it's obvious that it's flourishing in the U.S. and I know, like maybe 30 years ago, it was almost impossible to find a real Byzantine English chant in America. It was either going to polyphonic, okay, and they were not really accepting the Byzantine style and all this. And then I think we were even part of this evolution, if you want, with our 2 CDs that we did in English, the liturgy and the doxologies. So, and I think that they made a small difference, and they made people at least feel that it could work and they to try more. And definitely we have people like Shadi Karam, who is from SEM as well. I think he's doing great job. You have John Masih as well. We have great people in the US now, and especially when the sons of Antioch who started the choir, I think it's the premiere, and to have a choir that is always rehearsing and doing concerts and with one style, etc. So definitely this it is right. It's going in the right direction and very fast. And I'm really impressed how you have all the time to do all this. And I know this time. I mean, we are being able to do it in Antioch. So I can imagine in the US with all the stress of time, etc. So it's really blessed, and I understand your efforts. I mean, so God bless you.
Thank God. It is very difficult, especially when you're kind of at the starting point. We've had so many people who have contributed so much, but when you relate it to how it is in Greece, where it's still, like Patrick says a lot, it's very much in its infancy in English. Even in Arabic, he says it's kind of still in its infancy in relation to the Greek repertoire, the Greek tradition. So even though we have had so many people build such a strong foundation for us, right? Like you mentioned, Shadi and Father John, that's just in relation to Archdiocese. You look outside the Archdiocese and there's lots of more people, who it would take forever to name all of them. But even with all that foundation, we are still building slowly but surely, and it's a beautiful thing, kind of watching it come together, and humbly through the choir to be a part of it. Um, I'm so blessed. I feel so blessed to have grown up in this time where we can sort of contribute to it and help it grow. Uh, how do you think that between the progression in America and the progression in the Middle East, it seems like we're in kind of different places. Um, would you say that America is progressing faster? Would you say that in the Middle East that progression is met with more of a it's met with more resistance? Would you say that, or is the progression in the Middle East kind of generally accepted too?
Listen, definitely the challenges are different. When we started SEM 50 years ago, 30 years ago, if you compare it with our time in Lebanon today, it's totally different. 30 years ago, when we had, let me give you an example. For example, we were teaching 2 days per week. The students, for example, let's say, for example, whatever, Tuesday and Thursday. On Thursday, you'd find maybe half of the students of Tuesday coming on Thursday as well, because they are happy to come here. Okay, and then on the choir, we had the choir on Friday night. After the choir, were 40 people to go every time after the choir and have dinner together. Today, if I want to have 40 from the choir to have dinner together, it will be, I don't know, maybe almost impossible with their time limitations, and time changed. Before, I was always insisting on doing the maximum recordings. They were saying, why are you doing that? I'm telling them, I told them, because with time we'll become like Europe and US. It will be very difficult to have time to do all this. Now we have time. This is a blessing. We should take it to the end and do recordings. And this is what we did, actually. So that's it. Time is changing. And now, especially with AI and all this, I can imagine definitely AI doing Byzantine music. This is coming for sure.
That's a
No,
scary
really.
concept to think about, but yeah,
No, it's coming for sure.
yeah,
For sure. You will have a full book of anyone. Whatever. Anastasia Matarion by AI, ChatGPT. Constant bullet. And you name the style you want. It's getting there.
right.
I don't know how.
I tell people all the time, especially my students, I say, you can plug in all the intervals and everything into a computer, and you can tell it to go through the scale, and it can do it. It can do it. But if you ask it to read music, a computer is not going to give you the same oral tradition. It's not going to give you the inflection, that obviously not the spirit.
With time, it will do.
Yes, but it seems like
But not now. Not now. Not yet.
yeah, it seems like every day it's becoming this is becoming more and more of a reality, where soon we'll be able to have we can have like a chanter that never existed, right? A fake chanter who chants something with perfect ethos and all the correct ornamentations.
Stanislas, the Doctology by Bocelli, for example. You will hear it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, listen, it's scary, it's challenging, but at the same time, I always, you can find things there will be things that are beneficial in it, definitely, as everything. And now with your iPad, you have all the books of Byzantine music in your iPad. You can you can choose anything out of from it. On the internet, you are doing this, it would have been impossible otherwise. And definitely, I hope, Listen, I'll tell you something, it's very important. What is sure is that with all the AI and all what is happening, okay, which is definitely different than our human nature. Okay? All this is pushing people to go back to spirituality, to go back to what is real. So definitely the impact of AI for sure would be getting more people into Byzantine music and all this. Even if it will be composing Byzantine music, people will definitely, this type of people will be searching for human-made, if you want, Byzantine music, authentic, original. Because they will be coming to Byzantine music to get away from AI or from the lifestyle that will be ongoing. So definitely they will not accept to bring it with them there. This is how I see it.
We see this all over in the church. I mean, in America especially, the the conversion rates that we've seen to Orthodoxy in the last 5-10 years is astronomical, and it's because the further our society moves away from the church and moves away from God, then people they realize they have nothing, and especially with COVID, when people had to come to terms with mortality, and when people sort of felt that society was degrading at a rate that they had never seen, people realized how little they had spiritually, and then that ushered this huge return to tradition,
Yeah.
to the church. So it really is, it's such a beautiful thing to see. And of course, like you said, the further that it develops, the more it's going to push people
Yeah.
back toward the foundation of truth, which is found in the Orthodox Church. So last thing before we wrap up, I like to ask all of the guests something like this. What are some of your favorite funny memories from chanting? From You have such a wide history of concert touring and touring with all sorts of different people, and I'm sure there were tons of personalities in all sorts of different places. So what are some of the funniest stories that you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience, that you can remember?
So once we had a concert, okay? Before the start of the concert, we were sitting on the benches with the people. And then when it was our turn, would have left and went up to the stage, okay? So we were sitting randomly. And then there was one person who barely knows Byzantine music. He likes Byzantine music, but he barely chants. And I know him from before. He told them, wow, it will be a beautiful concert. I told him, okay, great. He told me, can I chant with you? I told him, sorry, you barely know Byzantine music and you don't know the chants even. Okay? It's impossible, and it's not what are you talking about? He told me, okay. Then it was our turn. We went there. I wanted to start. And suddenly I see him between the choir. He came up. And all the concert, I was looking at him. I cannot do anything. And the concert started. What can you do? Can you imagine that? It was
Well,
crazy.
we really wanted to be
Just this. Peace.
yeah.
Another time I was singing and chanting in a church, and I was improvising because it was something in the middle of the week or something, and it was not written. So there was another chanter with me, okay? He was, new in Byzantine music, okay? So I started chanting this chant, and he started chanting with me. I was improvising, okay? And I tried to stop him. He was full power, okay? Full power and chanting with me. Then when we finished, I told him, what were you doing? He told me, I know this chant. But how you know I'm revising? I don't know it. I cannot know what will be next.
He does those, so just follow him.
خلاص, he's just following and he's happy.
Yeah, yeah. It's after so much time, you know, it's uh I have so many stories already. You know, I can't imagine in 40, 50, God willing, 60 years from now, all the stories that we'll have. But yeah, it's such a beautiful thing that we share, and to offer up, you know, our prayer through chant, right? And to give the people to help facilitate prayer for the faithful, I think it's such an important ministry, and I thank you for all the work that you've done in this aspect. I thank you for all of your inspiration. You know, of course, through association, I don't think the Sons of Antioch even exists without you, because our director is, you know, one of your former choir members, and has taken so much influence from you. So I really appreciate everything you've done, directly or indirectly. And I appreciate your time and to come here and to share your expertise with us. It really has been such a blessing, and may God give you abundant strength, blessings, and just everything you need to continue this journey and to continue to bring glory to His name through the music.
You too.
Yes.
Thank you and God bless you.
God bless. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Ethos and Yphos, a production of Sons of Antioch Media. You can find us on the Sons of Antioch YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Sons of Antioch on social media and visit sonsofantioch.us for more information. God bless.